Hakadosh, Boker Or, Masechet, Bava Kamma Daf Amud Aleph, 65a1. The Gemara is talking about now that we're going to now ask a question on the Himatze Timase Haganav. You remember that there is actually, if you look in the footnote there in the art scroll, you see the Sikum, which is basically a summary of the Dirashot according to the Braitot. It says, Im Himatze Haganav Yishalem Shnaim, Im lo Himatze Haganav Yishalem Shnaim Lereu, Ganav Haganav, Im Himatze Timase, right? And then different things of Himatze Timase as well. So again, you have all the different Braitot. What do you learn from it? Twentanat Ganav, Ganav itself, Bava Kamma, Avad, Lo Avad, Kefel, all these things. Okay, what we're learning. Okay, very good. So now says the Gemara, this words of Himatze Timase, Lehach Yudata, this is what you need it for. We need it for something else. So remember that the second that you need these words for something else, it changes the now it's not extra to learn what we want to learn. So he says we needed it for when it says biyado, in his hands. So it says en li ela biyado gago chatzero karfifo minayin. How do we know that if he finds it in the gag chatzer or karfifo that he's going to be chayav and he has to pay kefel? It says the words which means like this. One more time. Mordechai, אתה תפסת בן אדם שהוא גונב. Yeah, שהוא גנב. Yeah, you found a person that he stole. But you found the geneva in his car. Should you be chayav to pay kefel or not?
car שלו, לא?
car שלו, כן, אוטו שלו. רכב שלו.
Okay, אז מה השאלה?
So the thing is that since it was written Imi Matzeti Matze Biyado, Havamina, it was a Havamina that if you found it in his hand, so there was a Havamina, Imaseti Matze Biyado. So the Havamina is that only if he found it in his hand does he have to pay Shnayim. עכשיו שכתוב Himatze Timase, בכל מקום שתמצאנו צריך לשלם שניים. קפיש? That's what we just learned. Okay?
So that's if you find it.
Well, obviously, if you don't find it, then how's he going to pay double?
So if you don't find it, then it's
if you don't find the culprit, how's he going to pay double?
But you still have the fact that he stole it.
How do you know? How do you know? That's a question. If so, Leimakar, the pasuk should have says, "Oh, himase, or timatze. Mideshani kra himatze timatze shema minatarte," which means like this. One more time. We had the pasuk imimatze timatze biyado. I would have had to have mina the biyado only if he found it in his hand. If he found it anywhere else in his property, he's going to be patur from kefet. So the Gemara says which means b'chol makom. Now the Gemara says you're right. Even though you need himatze to teach you kol makom, if right now it would have been written himatze or timatze, so then you're right. Then it has to teach you b'chol makom. Now that it's written timatze, I learned two things. First of all, mikol makom, and second of all, what we learned yesterday about what we needed it of timatze. To be memayet, whether it's kakaot, shtarot, and all those things, or shalol tzorech, or whatever it is. Okay. Says the Gemara Gufa. We stated. Amar Rav says, Keren ke'en sheganav. If a person steals an animal, and then the value of the animal changes, he has to pay the principal during the time when it was stolen. Okay? But the double and the 4 and 5 during the time. Sorry. Thank you. Which means like this. For example, you sold the animal. The animal was worth $1,000. All of a sudden, the value went up to $1,200. You only pay the keren $1,000. But when you go to court and when they're mechayev otcha, now the kefel is going to be $1,200 because that you pay at hamadat adin, not at the time you stole it, or the Bava Kamma, the 4 and 5 times b'shat hamadat adin. My tamad Rav, what's reasoning of Rav? Amar Kar, the pasuk says geneva v'chayim. Amai kama rachmana chayim b'gneva. Why does it say, right, chayim to do the gneva? Why does it mention it? So achye lekeren ke'en sheganav. So it's actually coming to teach you that the keren, which is called the gneva, is going to be paid b'shata gneva. So Amar Rav Sheshat says Rav Sheshat, Amina kinai v'shachiv Rav Amar lashmata. Do you know that Rav was saying this when he was half dozing off? You know, sometimes I see people they're half dozing off, right, in the shiur, right? He says Rav was probably saying it half dozing off. Yeah, he says why? He says the Tanya, right? Exactly. So let's turn on the AC. The Tanya, as we learned in Abraita, it says kechusha v'shmina. Yeah, he comes and he says, yeah, kechusha v'shmina, v'shmina. You know what that means? What happens if it was an animal that was very, very lean, and then it became fatter? You have to pay kefel v'tashlumer bava chamisha ken sheganav, which means you're going to have to pay b'shat geneva. So you see from here that even the tashlumer bava chamisha is also kishat geneva. So why does Rav say no, that the arba v'chamisha and the kefel is right now b'shat hamada badin when he stands up for the judgment? He was probably half asleep. This is a bright time mefurash that says it's like the time you stole it. Yeah?
Big joke over it. It's a nice way.
Yes, but it's Rav Sheshat. Rav Sheshat it says here, Rav Sheshat, Chas v'Shalom, did not come to be mezalzel in Rav, but he had such a high appreciation of Rav, he said for sure he wouldn't have made such a mistake unless he was half, like he wasn't 100%, like that. That's what it means. Right? That means he said for sure it was like that. You understand? Sometimes they do that. They say, no, he wasn't really paying attention. Mm-hmm. When you catch a person off guard or they, like things like that, with Rav, impossible. So Amri, they said, Mishum de Elmaleh, because the Ganav could tell the Baalim, Ana patimna ve'at shakalt. I made it fatter, and you're going to take more money? How does that make sense? I came and I took it. So I made it fatter, and you're going to come now, you're going to take the money? How does it work? So Tashema, right, we're going to bring another proof. Shemina v'chisha. Right? If right now it was fat and he became skinnier. You have to pay. I went skinnier. It doesn't matter. You have to pay the time of the time of the damage. Yeah, the time of the damage, the time of the stealing. That means even though it became skinnier now, I don't care. You have to pay. Okay, which makes sense. So says the Gemara, Hatam Nami, here it's the exact same thing also. Why? Because we could tell him, Malikat la kula, malikat la palga. What is the difference whether you killed him halfway or full way? You killed the guy. You took out. You meaning when you come so you have to pay. Right? Well, what does that mean? Right? Kika Rav. When did the Rav talk about? Biyukra vezula udikama. We're talking about when it became more expensive or it became cheaper. Meaning we're not talking about that now it became skinnier. Right? We're talking about because what's the difference whether you killed an animal halfway or full way? Meaning if you came and you started starving the animal, you basically almost killed it. Well, what's the difference if you fully killed it or you basically made it mamash, like, like anorexic, that, it can barely, same thing. Okay? So, Hechidami, what's the case? If you're going to tell me that at the beginning it was going to be Shavya Zuz, it's worth a Zuz. Ulvasof, and at the end it's going to be Shavya Arba Zuz, it's going to be worth 4 Zuz. Keren Ken Sheganav, when we talk about Keren, that it's like what you stole, Leima Pliga de Rava de Rabba. So, why don't we just say that it's an argument between Rav and Rabba? The Amar Rabba, because Rabba says, somebody that's going to sell a chavit of wine from his friends, from the beginning it's going to be shaveh azuz, and at the end shaveh arba zuze. It's going to be worth 4 zuz. So tavra ushatya, he says, if they break it or if they drink, mishalem arba'a, you're going to pay 4 times the amount, right? 4 zuz. Itvar v'meila, but if it breaks on its own, mishalem zuza, you're only going to have to pay 1 zuz, like during the time of the shata gizela. Which means it comes out that the psak of Rav is talking about that the geneva became more expensive. So why, if you slaughtered it or sold it, you're going to pay the keren b'shat geneva, right? At the end of the day, if you're going to come and you're going to slaughter and sell it, it's considered kilu that it broke and then you came and you drank. So therefore, you have to pay the keren during the time of the tvicha mechira. So answers the Gemara Amri. So he says ki kamar Rav. When was Rav talking about kegon de meikara shavya arba? At the beginning, it was worth 4, and then at the end, it was only worth 1. So he says, Keren Ken Shegnav, you have to pay during the time which is at 4, Tashlum Kevel, Tashlum Rabbi Chamisha is Keshat Amida Bedin, which is going to be 1. So here it actually comes out an incredible case. Ani Rabbi Chanina, so this you and Rav. So Rabbi Chanina taught a braita in accordance to Rav. Balabait sheta'an ta'anat ganav b'pikadon v'nishba. A balabait that he's going to be toen ta'anat ganav by pikadon, and then he swears, and oda, right? And then he was oda. So he swore, but then he was modeh. Ubao edim, and then the edim come. Imad shelo bao edim oda. If he first admitted before, right, the edim comes. So mishlei kedem v'chomesh v'asham. But if they already, so then if already it was only done after the edim comes, so then he has to pay tashlume kefel, asham lechomsho alav bekfelo, and the tashlume kefel is also going to be to the chomesh. These are the words of Rabbi Yaakov, Divrei Rabbi Yaakov, Samechei Amud Bet 65b. The Chachamim say, והשיב את אשמו בראשו וחמישיתו יוסף אליו, ממון המשתלם בראש, מוסיף החומש. You only have to add the chomesh on mamon, which is on the beginning, the keren. Mamon sheni mishalem b'rosh, but the mamon which is not going to be mishalem b'rosh, which is the kefel, and mosif chomesh, you don't have to add chomesh. Meaning, you don't have to add a fifth onto the kefel. You only have to add a fifth onto the keren. Okay? Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai Omer, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai says, En chomesh v'asham mishtalem, imkom sheyesh kefel. You never pay the chomesh and asham if you're paying kefel. K'tani miyad, but we did learn though. Chumsho ole lo bikfelo de Rabbi Yaakov. What's the case of Rabbi Yaakov? Ilema, if you're going to tell me the Meikar Hashav Yarba at the beginning there's worth 4, and now it's also worth 4. Chumsho ole lo bikfelo. How can it be that the chomesh is instead of the kefel? Doesn't make sense. Kfela is going to be 4, and the chomesh is going to be 1 zuz. Elalav, but rather the Meikar Hashav Yarba at the beginning it's worth 4 zuz, and at the end it's only going to be worth 1 zuz. The kfela zuza. So then the kefel is 1 zuz, and the chomesh is 1 zuz. So Alma sees from here, so this is exactly like Rav. Because we have a braita now, 100% according to Rav. So Amar Rava comes and he says, Leolam really be'emet, Temeikara shav yarba. At the beginning it's worth 4 zuz. Behashtanami shav yarba. Now it's also going to be worth 4 zuz. Ulkakashia. So now when you're going to ask the question, Feila arba vechumsha zuza, the kefil is going to be 4 zuz and the chomesh is going to be, right, 5 zuz. 1 zuz. Right, that's the chomesh. Right? Hacham ma'askina, what are we dealing with? Yon shenishba, you swore. The chazav nishba, you swore again. Arba pe'amim. And then you were a modeh. The Torah amra v'chamishitav, ha-Torah ribta chamishiyot arbe v'keren achat. Here we have a chidush. You swore once, and then you swore again. And you swore again, and you swore again. On every time you swear, you're going to have to pay the chomesh, even if though it was one merchandise. Meaning it comes out that you're going to pay the chomesh on every single time that you swore, even though it's the same thing. So as many times as you swear, that's what you're going to have to pay. Okay? Amar Mor. Mor says, Chachamim say, right? It says, V'eshivet hashamo b'rosho v'chamishito, mamon mishtalem b'rosh mosif chomesh. Mamon mishtalem b'rosh, em mosif chomesh, aval hasham maiti. But you do bring in hasham. Maishna chomesh. What's the reasoning why you're not going to pay the chomesh, but you have to bring the hasham? Because it says, Dichtiv b'rosho v'chamishito. Hasham nami lo mishalem. Dichtiv b'rosho v'chamishita v'tashamo. So it should be the same halacha. So Elmaleh Rabbanan, the word et is a pasek. You heard? The word et is a pasek. And therefore, since the word ve'et hashamo is a pasek, there will be times that you have to pay the hasham, but you don't pay the chomesh. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai and Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, ve'et ar ve'kra. He says, no. The word ve'et is bringing it together, meaning it's being ma'arevet together, to come and to put them both together. Okay? Fine. V'rabbanan, and according to the rabbis, so he says, Amri lecha, they're going to tell you, lo lichtov rachmana lo vav velo ve'et. What is ve'et? Don't write the vav and don't write the et. The other Madamar said et is a pasek. He says, yeah, but when it says ve'et, it's coming to include. Now he's coming to say, no. Really be'emet, they're both. That's what he's saying. So he says, right, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, Elmaleh is going to tell you, et lo sagya de lo katav. It's not enough that he didn't write it. Lafsuke be mamon gavoa le mamon hagdesh. He wanted to make a differentiation between mamon gavoa and mamon hagdesh. Mamon gavoa, obviously, is money that belongs to Hashem. Mamon Hekdesh, right? Sorry, Mamon Hekdesh is what gives a right to, and Mamon Idiot is regular people's money. So Hilkach, therefore, Ata Vav Arve Kare, that's why the Pasuk had the Vav, Ve'et, to bring them both together. That means even though there's Mamon Gavoa and Mamon Idiot, meaning regular person's money and the money of the Hashem, you're bringing them both down. Okay? Fine. Amar Bila, says Bila, Ganav Tle Venasa Ayin. Imagine you stole a Tle and it became an Ayin in your hands. Right? Yeah, Tle. Tle? Yeah.
The god of the Egyptians.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Egel Venasa Shor. You stole an Egel and became a Shor. Meaning that it grew up. Right? And it grew up in your possession. Now it says Shinui Biyado Knao. The Shinui is in your hands and you acquire it. So therefore, if you're going to be Tavach Machar, Shelo Tovech, so now it's yours. Meaning like this, when do you pay the Bava Kamma 4 or 5 times? When you steal and you sold and slaughtered that which you stole, but you didn't really bemet acquire it. Here, the fact that there was a shinui, there was a change because it became from the baby to the older, which now it even has a different name. One's like a kid, right? If I remember correctly, I think a taleh is called a kid in English, and the ayil is a ram, or an egel, which is like the calf, and it becomes a shor, becomes a ox. So therefore, since it changes, so therefore it becomes yours, you have to pay. Okay? So says the Gemara 8 ways, so we're going to ask the following question. Rabbi Chanina Rabbi La, Ganav Taleh v'nasa ayil. Egel v'nasa shulshat tashlu b'kev v'vatov v'tashlu b'mevchen sheganav. V'yisa, now you're going to tell me now, Tanya b'shinui, that you acquire with a shinui. I'm by Mishlem, what is he have to pay the Chamisha? Shelo tovech, shelo mocher. What are you talking about? I thought you just said that it's his. Once he acquires it, so you don't have to pay a penny. So says the Gemara, Amarli, he comes and he tells him, Ve'lamai shinui lo kani. What does it mean? It's a shinui. Shinui is not going to be acquired. Ve'lamai, why? So if it's going to be like that, why does he have to then pay Mishalem Masechet Ganav? So says the Gemara, L'shalem ki hashta. You should actually pay the way that it is now. So Amalek, why doesn't he not pay according to the value now? He says, Nishum da Amalek, because he could say, Torah gan v'mimcha, dichra gan v'mimcha. He says, what? Did I steal a shore from you? Did I steal an ayil? I only stole a calf, an egel, or a taleh. Amalek, he says, Rachmana litzla ma'hidaita. Hashem should save us from such a thought. Elmaleh, he says, Adrabah, the opposite. Hashem should save us from your sfarot. That's what he says. Okay? So, Matkifla Rabbi Zera, ask Rabbi Zera, V'nikninu b'shinui Hashem. Buy it with shinui Hashem. Yeah? What does that mean? The second that you do it, it's already shinui Hashem. So, Amar Rabbi says, Shor ben yomo karui shor. Ayil ben yomo karui ayil. He says, no. Because a shor ben yomo is still called a shor. The same with an eye. Okay?
They're playing on the words, you know.
Which one?
They're playing on the words.
Fine. Shor ben yomo karoi shor dichtiv shor oches voez ki valed. So that's how we know that a shor is called a shor even the day that it's born. That means even though you call it a calf, a young, like an egel, but really by it's still called a shor. Yeah, Ayel ben Yomon Karan Dichti, Ve'eletzo Necha lo achalti. Elimud lo achal, kvasim machal, what? Did he eat the kvasim? Ayel ben Yomon Karan, even one day old, it's called a 9. Yikom Akom Kashi, but still says the Gemara, it's still a question. The question is from the Braita, right? If you tell me that Rabbi La, that a Taleh which becomes an Ayil, or an Egel becomes a short, is considered a Shinui, so why does it say then he has to pay Bava Kamma? So Amar Rav Sheshat says Rav Sheshat, Amani, who is this? Bet Shammai, it's Bet Shammai. The Amni that they say is Shinui bimkomo medet. The Shinui is in its place. The lo kani, and you're not going to actually acquire it. The Tanya was learned in the Braita, Natan lo betnena, chitin vasan solid. What happens if you give to a zona, an etnan zona? You gave her chitin, and she made it solid. Zaitim, and you made shemen. Anavim, and you made yain. Tanicha, the one of them says it's still asur to bring a korban from it. The Tanya, the other one says it's going to be mutar. Right, is the name of place. Bet Shammai osrim betilei matirim. So my time at the Bet Shammai, what's the reasoning of Bet Shammai? That they say you're not allowed to bring as a korban. Tichtiv gam. Ki toavat Hashem Elokecha gam shenehem. Gam lerabot shinuihem. Meaning even though you made a shinui, you're not allowed to bring it. So you made a shinui. He gave to the zuna grapes. She made wine out of it. You're not allowed to bring that wine on the mizbeach. You gave to the zuna chitim. He made the flour out of it. Not allowed to bring it on the mizbeach. Doesn't matter. The shinui. Bet Hillel, it says hem velo shinuyim, the opposite. Kito avat Hashem lokecha gam shehem. What does it mean hem? When it says the word shenehem, the hem is coming to teach you that's what's asur, but not the shinui. And therefore, then Bat Shammai is going to say, no, Bet Hillel, there's machloket between them. When it says shenehem, it means that only they is asur to bring it to the mizbeach. And if you changed it, it's a panim chalasho bal v'kan. It's a new entity, therefore you're allowed to bring it onto the mizbeach according to this.